The red warning lights flashed across every computer screen at Sterling and Associates Legal Group. System failure. All data corrupted blinked relentlessly as panicked voices filled the Charlotte office. In 6 hours, they faced a federal audit that could shut down the firm permanently. The superior cloud solution had just destroyed 8 years of critical legal records. That's when they called me the obsolete developer they'd fired just 1 month ago. My name is Marcus Rodriguez, and this is how I turned my biggest professional disaster into the foundation of a $1 million consulting empire. The new chief technology officer stood in my office doorway, tablet in hand, delivering his verdict with corporate precision. Your custom system is obsolete, Marcus. The future belongs to cloud-based solutions. I was 42 years old and had spent the last decade building something extraordinary at Sterling & Associates, a legal software system that had quietly revolutionized how this 85-attorney firm in Charlotte, North Carolina operated. But none of that mattered to Bradley Chun, our new CTO fresh from Silicon Valley. We're migrating to cloud legal enterprise, he continued, not bothering to sit down. Industry standard, proven track record. Your creation will be phased out by month's end. Cloud Legal Enterprise. I knew the name. They handled mid-sized firms across the Southeast, nothing approaching our complexity or scale. We were one of Charlotte's premier legal firms, handling everything from Fortune 500 corporate litigation to federal regulatory compliance. They service all the major practices in Atlanta, Bradley explained, scrolling through his tablet. Microsoft's legal team, Delta Airlines litigation department, even some Pentagon contractors. We'll be an excellent company. The irony was crushing. For a decade, I'd watched other firms' systems crash during critical moments, depositions derailed by server failures, regulatory filings lost to database corruption, billing disputes caused by incomplete records. My system had never failed. Not once. During the massive South Point Industries class action lawsuit, when we tracked 350,000 billable hours across 62 attorneys in real time, my software handled every transaction flawlessly. During last year's federal investigation into defense contractor billing practices, when government auditors demanded minute-by-minute records spanning 4 years, my system generated comprehensive reports in under 8 minutes. When do you need me to begin the transition? I asked, already knowing the answer. We won't require a transition. Cloud Legal has their own implementation specialists. Your services won't be needed after next Friday. I nodded, maintaining professional composure. Understood. Bradley paused at the doorway. Nothing personal. Marcus, this is simply business evolution. You understand? Of course. After he left, I sat alone in my office overlooking Charlotte's banking district. Glass towers stretched toward the Carolina sky, monuments to progress and innovation. I'd built something meaningful here, something that had transformed how Sterling and Associates operated. But I wasn't bitter. In technology, everything is temporary. Projects conclude, systems get replaced, people move forward. But I also understood something Bradley didn't. I knew how these cloud vendors actually operated behind their polished presentations. I opened my desk drawer and retrieved business cards I'd printed 2 years earlier but never distributed. Marcus Rodriguez, independent software consultant. Clean, professional, ready for this exact moment. I'd always planned to go independent eventually. The timing wasn't my choice, but the destination remained unchanged. My journey to Sterling and Associates began 12 years ago when the dot-com crash claimed my startup. My partner and I had developed inventory management software for small manufacturers, but when venture funding evaporated, I needed immediate employment. Law firms offered stability, conservative growth, excellent compensation, and demanding standards. During my first week at Sterling and Associates, I watched 3 attorneys lose an entire day of billable work when their legacy system corrupted a critical case file during a deposition. The managing partner, Catherine Sterling herself, approached me afterward. Can you build something better? Something that won't fail when we need it most. I spent 8 months studying how attorneys actually worked under pressure. Not their idealized workflows, but their real behavior during late nights, impossible deadlines, and constantly shifting priorities. I built this system around those realities: redundant backups, offline capability, intuitive interfaces that remained functional even when users were exhausted and stressed. The first major test came during the Meridian Corporation merger. 63 attorneys, 400,000 documents, 22 months of discovery. My system tracked every minute, every expense, every communication with perfect precision. When the client questioned a $4.8 million billing statement, we provided itemized reports down to 6-minute increments. They paid without argument. Word spread throughout Charlotte's legal community. Other firms attempted to recruit me. Software companies offered to license my code, but Catherine Sterling doubled my salary and granted me equity in the firm. "Your family now," she said. Then Catherine retired 18 months ago. Her nephew, Jonathan Sterling, assumed the managing partner role, but real power shifted to Bradley Chun, a Harvard Business School graduate with zero law firm experience who brought Silicon Valley disruption philosophy to a traditional Charlotte legal practice. I noticed the changes gradually. My access to financial reports became restricted. My direct communication with the managing partner was replaced by scheduled monthly meetings. New policies required all technology decisions to receive approval from the CTO's office. When I requested budget for system improvements, the response was always identical: "We're evaluating our technology stack holistically." Bradley hired consultants from Deloitte to audit our systems. They spent 4 weeks interviewing personnel and reviewing documentation. Their report, which I wasn't permitted to see, apparently recommended migrating to best-in-class cloud solutions. The writing was clear, but I assumed we had more time. I thought Bradley would at least want to understand my system's actual capabilities before eliminating it. I was wrong. The call came while I was having coffee at a cafe near my uptown Charlotte apartment. I've been updating my resume and contacting former colleagues. The consulting business was slowly developing, but I wasn't rushing. My savings provided several months of runway. "Marcus, this is Sarah Chun from Sterling & Associates. Is this a good time?" Sarah was one of our senior paralegals, brilliant woman, always treated support staff respectfully. No relation to Bradley despite the shared surname. "Of course. How are things progressing?" "Not well. The new system, there are serious problems." I set down my coffee. "What kind of problems?" "It lost all our billable hour tracking for the Meridian case. 4 months of work, completely gone. Bradley says it's a temporary database synchronization issue, but the trial starts Wednesday, and we need those billing records for evidence." The Meridian case, our largest ongoing litigation, generating steady revenue for 3 years. The same case where my system had tracked every detail with perfect accuracy. "Have you contacted Cloud Legal Support?" "We've been trying for 8 hours. They say they're investigating the issue, but can't provide a timeline." Bradley is having a very difficult day. In my system, this would have been a 5-minute restoration, full backup recovery, verification, and testing. But Cloud Legal operated differently. Their support was outsourced overseas. Their backup procedures were automated and opaque. When problems occurred, customers waited in queues. "Is there anything specific you need from me?" "Actually, yes. The managing partner wants to know if you could help us as a consultant, temporarily, until we resolve this situation." I paused, processing the irony. "What about Bradley?" "Bradley is focused on working with Cloud Legal to resolve the technical issues. This would be a separate engagement, business continuity consulting." Business continuity consulting. A diplomatic way of saying they needed someone to clean up the mess. My consulting rate is $400 per hour. That should be acceptable. When can you start? I can be there in 45 minutes. After hanging up, I sat for a moment absorbing what had just happened. 3 weeks ago, they terminated me to save money on an obsolete system. Now, they wanted to pay me 4 times my old hourly wage to fix problems caused by their cost-saving measure. But this was just the beginning. Meridian was relatively straightforward. Wait until they attempted month-end billing cycles. Wait until they faced their first regulatory audit. Wait until they realized my obsolete system had handled dozens of integrations and custom processes that Cloud Legal couldn't replicate. I finished my coffee and walked to my car. Bradley Chun was about to receive an expensive education in the difference between industry standard and actually functional. When I arrived at Sterling & Associates, the office atmosphere had completely transformed. The usual afternoon energy was replaced by tense quiet. People huddled around computer screens, typing frantically or speaking in hushed, urgent tones. I recognized the environment from my startup days, crisis management mode. Sarah met me at reception. "Thank God you're here. It's worse than I thought." She led me to conference room C, where my old workstation had been preserved. Someone had the foresight to maintain my development environment on a separate machine before the migration. Smart thinking. "What's the current status?" I asked. "Cloud Legal says the data isn't lost, just temporarily inaccessible due to synchronization errors. They estimate 6 to 8 hours for full restoration, but we don't have 6 to 8 hours. Judge Morrison wants those billing records by 3 p.m. tomorrow, or she'll consider sanction for discovery violations." I logged into my preserve system. Everything was exactly as I'd left it 3 weeks ago. Complete billing records for Meridian, detailed time tracking, expense allocations, document correlations, all intact and immediately accessible. "I can generate the reports Judge Morrison needs in about 12 minutes, I said. "Do it." While the system compiled data, I heard raised voices from down the hall. Through the conference room's glass walls, I could see Bradley Chun pacing in his office, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing emphatically at empty air. The Meridian billing report finished processing. 22 months of legal work, 1,247 attorney hours, 3,891 paralegal hours, $287,000 in documented expenses, all formatted according to court specifications. I printed 4 copies and handed them to Sarah. "This is incredible," she said, flipping through the pages. "Cloud Legal told us it would take their forensics team 3 days just to identify where the data went." "Different architectures," I explained. "My system stores everything locally with real-time cloud backup. Their system processes everything in the cloud first, then caches locally. When cloud connections fail, everything downstream stops functioning." "Can you fix their system?" "I can't fix their system, but I can provide parallel data recovery for any case files that existed before migration." Sarah nodded. "How much?" $400 per hour plus expenses. "Done." She left to deliver the reports, and I began assessing the true scope of the problem. My preserve system contained complete historical data for 312 active cases, 89 closed cases, and approximately 650,000 individual billing entries spanning 10 years. All perfectly organized and immediately accessible. Cloud Legal, meanwhile, had successfully migrated about 55% of the data before encountering what their technical support classified as unforeseen integration complexities. 30 minutes later, Bradley Chun appeared in the doorway. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Marcus, I heard you were helping with the Meridian situation." "Temporary consulting engagement," I replied. "Business continuity support." "Good. That's good. We appreciate you stepping in during this transition period." Transition period, as if this was planned rather than complete system failure. "How long until Cloud Legal has everything functioning normally?" I asked. "They're confident full functionality will be restored within 72 hours. This is just typical migration turbulence, growing pains. Every major firm experiences this when upgrading to enterprise-class solutions." I nodded politely. Bradley clearly believed what he was saying, which made him either remarkably naive or an exceptionally good actor. In my experience, when cloud vendors promise 72 hours during a crisis, the real timeline was usually measured in weeks. "In the meantime," Bradley continued, "perhaps you could assist with a few other data recovery tasks, just to keep things running smoothly while Cloud Legal completes their optimization process." "Of course. What do you need?" "Monthly billing reports for all active cases. Client invoicing data for the past quarter." He paused, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "The partnership accounting reports for the year-end audit." Partnership accounting, the most complex and sensitive data in the entire firm. The calculations that determined profit distribution among founding partners. If Cloud Legal had corrupted that data, Bradley wasn't just facing operational crisis. He was facing potential mutiny from the people who actually owned the company. "I can have preliminary reports ready by tomorrow morning," I said. "Excellent. And Marcus, I appreciate your professionalism during this situation. I know the transition has been difficult for everyone." After he left, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything. Every request, every timeline, every promise Cloud Legal had made and broken. Bradley might think this was temporary turbulence, but I suspected we were just getting started. The partnership accounting data revealed the complete story. I spent 6 hours that evening reconstructing financial reports that Cloud Legal had somehow corrupted during their migration process. What I discovered was worse than simple data loss. It was systematic incompetence. Cloud Legal had migrated the simple data first: client contact information, basic case files, standard billing entries. But they had completely failed to understand the complex relationships between different data types. Partner profit distributions were calculated using weighted formulas that considered billable hours, client origination credits, expense management, and seniority factors. My system had automated these calculations using custom algorithms developed over 10 years. Cloud Legal's system treated each data point as independent, destroying the mathematical relationships that made calculations possible. Worse, they had apparently decided that some of my custom fields were non-standard and simply deleted them during migration. Years of carefully tracked metrics, client satisfaction scores, case complexity ratings, efficiency measurements were gone forever. I called Sarah at 9 p.m. "How bad is the real situation?" "Bad." Cloud Legal pushed back their timeline again. Now they're saying 7 to 10 business days for complete restoration. Bradley is in emergency meetings with the managing partner and founding partners. There's talk of bringing in forensic data recovery specialists. "What about the Meridian deadline? Your report saved us." Judge Morrison accepted them without question, but Bradley is telling everyone that Cloud Legal provided the data, not you. Interesting. Bradley was claiming credit for my work while simultaneously managing the crisis his decision had created. "Sarah, I need to ask you something confidential. Before the migration, did anyone from Cloud Legal actually test their system with our data?" "Not that I know of. They said their migration tools were proven with thousands of law firms." "Did they send anyone here to understand our custom workflows?" "No. They said everything would be handled remotely." I had suspected as much. Cloud Legal had sold Bradley a standard package and convinced him that our unique requirements would somehow fit their generic solution. It was like ordering a tailored suit from a catalog. One more question. How much is Sterling paying Cloud Legal annually? I'm not supposed to know that, but I handle invoice processing. $950,000 per year plus implementation costs. $950,000. My old salary was $135,000 plus benefits and equity. They were paying Cloud Legal 7 times what they paid me for a system that didn't work. "Marcus, can I ask you something? Could your old system handle everything we're trying to do with Cloud Legal?" "It was handling everything for 10 years. Then why did Bradley replace it?" That was the question I'd been asking myself for weeks. Bradley wasn't stupid. His resume was impressive. Harvard Business School, consulting experience at top firms, successful technology implementations at previous companies. So why had he made such a catastrophic decision? The answer came while reviewing Cloud Legal contract terms that Sarah had quietly shared. Bradley hadn't just bought software. He'd bought a relationship. Cloud Legal was owned by Pinnacle Technology Solutions, the same consulting firm where Bradley had worked before joining Sterling and Associates. His former colleagues were now his vendors. This wasn't about technology. It was about Bradley proving he could bring big firm solutions to a mid-sized practice. It was about demonstrating his value through expensive, visible changes rather than quiet, effective maintenance. My system worked too well. It was invisible, reliable, and boring. Bradley needed something that looked impressive in PowerPoint presentations to the partners. Unfortunately for Bradley, the partners cared more about quarterly profit distributions that my system calculated than impressive features that Cloud Legal promised. And those profit calculations were currently impossible to generate. Tomorrow, I would deliver partnership accounting reports that Cloud Legal couldn't provide. Bradley would have to explain to founding partners why their expensive new system couldn't handle the most basic function of law firm management. My consulting rate was about to become a bargain. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling & Associates with 4 sets of printed reports and a proposal that would change everything. The partnership meeting was scheduled for 11 a.m. I wanted to be prepared. Sarah met me at the elevator. Bradley has been here since 5 a.m. Cloud Legal pushed back their timeline again. Now they're saying 3 weeks for full data recovery. The partners are furious. What about quarterly distributions? That's why they need you. Cloud Legal says their system can't replicate your profit allocation formulas without significant custom development. They estimate 8 months and an additional $400,000 in consulting fees. 8 months. By then, the partners would miss their quarterly distributions entirely. In a law firm, that was grounds for dissolving management agreements and finding new leadership. Has anyone told the partners that my system can generate those reports right now? That's why I called you yesterday. The managing partner specifically requested that you attend the meeting. I had worked with managing partner Jonathan Sterling for 7 years before his aunt retired. He was practical, decisive, and completely uninterested in technology for its own sake. He cared about results. At 11 a.m. sharp, I walked into the main conference room carrying my laptop and printed reports. 10 partners sat around the mahogany table, with Bradley at the far end looking like he faced a firing squad. "Marcus," Jonathan said, standing to shake my hand. "Thank you for coming. We understand you've been helping us navigate some temporary technical difficulties. I'm happy to help however I can." Bradley cleared his throat. Marcus has been providing excellent support during our migration to Cloud Legal. The data recovery process has been more complex than anticipated, but we're confident that full functionality will be restored soon. "How soon?" asked Patricia Hartwell, one of the founding partners. Cloud Legal estimates 3 weeks for complete system restoration. However, they can provide basic functionality immediately, and Marcus has been generating interim reports using archived data. "Interim reports," repeated another partner. "What exactly does that mean?" I placed the printed partnership reports on the table. "These are your complete profit distributions for the quarter, calculated using the same formulas that have been in place for 10 years. Every billable hour, every expense allocation, every client origination credit. The data is complete and accurate." Jonathan picked up the reports and flipped through them. "This looks identical to what we received last quarter." "Because it is identical. Same system, same calculations, same data sources." "But I thought your system was obsolete," said Patricia. Bradley shifted uncomfortably. The strategic decision to migrate to Cloud Legal was based on long-term scalability and integration capabilities. "Bradley," Jonathan said quietly, "help me understand something. You replaced a system that worked perfectly with a system that doesn't work at all. And now we're paying Marcus 4 times his old salary to recreate reports that his old system generated automatically. The migration challenges are temporary. Cloud Legal is an industry-leading solution used by major firms across the country." "Which major firms?" I asked. Bradley looked at me sharply. "Excuse me? You mentioned that Cloud Legal handles all the major firms in Atlanta. Microsoft's legal team, Delta Airlines, Pentagon contractors. I'm curious which specific law practices use their billing system." "That information is proprietary." "Actually, it's not." I opened my laptop and connected to the projector. Cloud Legal's client list is publicly available on their website. They serve 73 law firms nationwide. The largest has 45 attorneys. Sterling & Associates has 85 attorneys. You're implementing a system designed for firms less than half our size. The silence in the room was absolute. Jonathan leaned forward. "Marcus, what would it cost to restore your original system as our primary platform?" I have been waiting for this question for a month. "I would need to evaluate current infrastructure, but I estimate 60 hours of restoration work at my consulting rate. After that, I'd recommend a maintenance contract to prevent future disruptions." "And your consulting rate is $400 per hour?" "Correct." Bradley's face had gone completely pale. The vote was unanimous. 10 partners, 10 hands raised in favor of terminating the cloud legal contract and restoring my original system. Bradley sat motionless as Jonathan read the resolution aloud. Effective immediately, Marcus Rodriguez is authorized to restore the firm's previous billing and case management system. All data migration activities with Cloud Legal are suspended pending legal review of contract termination procedures. Patricia looked directly at Bradley. We'll also be conducting a comprehensive review of all technology decisions made in the past year, including vendor selection processes and due diligence procedures. Bradley finally spoke. I believe this is a mistake. Cloud Legal is a proven solution. These migration issues are temporary. Bradley, Jonathan said, Cloud Legal has cost us 8 weeks of productivity, nearly lost our Meridian case, and made it impossible to calculate partner distributions. Marcus has solved every problem in less than 24 hours using a system you declared obsolete. But the long-term scalability of a system that doesn't work is zero. I connected my laptop to the main server and began the restoration process. 10 years of development work, carefully preserved on backup drives, began flowing back into the firm's infrastructure. Database connections reestablished, custom workflows reactivated, integration points with accounting, document management, and client portals came back online. How long will this take? Asked Jonathan. 6 hours for complete restoration. Another 3 hours for testing and verification. Then we'll be fully operational. Better than fully operational, I added. I've been developing improvements for a month. The restored system will be more efficient than what you had before. Bradley stood abruptly. I need to make some calls regarding contract termination procedures. After he left, Patricia turned to me. Marcus, we owe you an apology. Letting Bradley eliminate your position was a serious error in judgment. Understand, change is difficult to evaluate when you're not deeply familiar with technical details. Would you consider returning as a permanent employee? I saved my work and looked around the conference room. 1 month ago, I'd been escorted out as an obsolete relic. Now, they wanted me back as their savior. I appreciate the offer, but I think the consulting arrangement works better for everyone. You get guaranteed system reliability without the overhead of a full-time position. I get the flexibility to work with multiple clients. Multiple clients? 5 other firms have contacted me this week. Word travels fast when law firms have system failures. What I didn't tell the partners in that meeting was how I'd spent my month of unemployment. While they struggled with Cloud Legal's failures, I've been conducting my own market research. I reached out to every law firm in the Carolinas that had migrated to cloud-based systems in the past 2 years. The results were staggering. 73% had experienced significant data loss or system failures within 6 months. 45% had paid emergency consulting fees exceeding their annual IT budgets. 28% had reverted to manual processes during critical periods. But here's what really caught my attention. 3 firms had actually reversed their cloud migrations entirely, returning to custom solutions. The cost? An average of $400,000 per firm in wasted investment and recovery expenses. I realized I wasn't just solving Sterling's problem. I was potentially solving an industry-wide crisis that most firms were too embarrassed to discuss publicly. During my restoration work, I implemented a new feature I called Migration Insurance, a comprehensive backup system that could seamlessly interface with any cloud provider while maintaining complete local redundancy. If another CTO ever tried to replace my system again, the transition could be reversed in hours instead of weeks. New content, expansion 2, the network effect. While working on Sterling's restoration, I received a call that changed everything. Rebecca Martinez, managing partner at Davidson & Associates in Raleigh, had heard about our situation through the North Carolina Bar Association's informal network. Marcus, we're facing the exact same problem. Our CTO implemented something called Legal Cloud Pro 6 months ago. Last week, it corrupted our entire client trust account database. We're looking at potential bar disciplinary action if we can't reconstruct those records. Trust account corruption was career-ending serious. In North Carolina, improper handling of client funds could result in immediate license suspension. How did you hear about our situation? I asked. Jonathan Sterling mentioned it at the Bar Association lunch. He said you'd save their firm from complete disaster. That's when I realized the true scope of the opportunity. Law firms talk to each other constantly about cases, strategies, personnel, and apparently about technology disasters too. I can be in Raleigh tomorrow, I told Rebecca. My rate is $500 per hour for trust account reconstruction. Done. By the end of that week, I had consulting contracts with 4 additional firms across North Carolina. Each had experienced some version of the same cloud migration disaster. Each was willing to pay premium rates for someone who could actually fix their problems instead of just promising to investigate the issue. 8 months later, Sterling and Associates settled their breach of contract lawsuit with Cloud Legal for $650,000. Bradley Chun resigned to pursue other opportunities, which turned out to be a position at a small firm in Phoenix that lasted exactly 4 months before they too experienced a cloud migration failure. My consulting business had grown to include 18 law firms across the Southeast. The demand for reliable, custom-built systems was higher than I'd ever imagined. Apparently, many firms had experienced their own cloud legal moments with various providers. I was working from my home office in Charlotte South End when Jonathan Sterling called. Marcus, I wanted to give you an update on the partnership distributions. We just completed our best quarter in firm history. The efficiency improvements you built into the restored system have increased our billable hour accuracy by 18%. That's excellent news. There's something else. We're opening a second office in Asheville. Would you be interested in building an integrated system for both locations? Absolutely. What's your timeline? We'd like to start planning next month. And Marcus, this time you'll be reporting directly to me. No intermediaries. After he hung up, I walked to the window of my home office. The Charlotte skyline stretched before me, glass towers reaching toward the Blue Ridge Mountains in the distance. I had built something that worked, something that mattered, something that lasted. But more than that, I'd built something that couldn't be replaced by a catalog solution sold by smooth-talking consultants who'd never spent a day in an actual law firm. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. New CTO started today. First thing he asked was whether you were available for consultation on system architecture. I told him your rate is $750 per hour now. He didn't flinch. $750 per hour. Fair market value for expertise that couldn't be commoditized or outsourced. 18 months later, the Rodriguez Legal Technology Group now employed 12 developers and served 34 law firms across 6 states. We'd prevented 8 cloud migration disasters, recovered data from 11 failed implementations, and built custom solutions for firms ranging from 15 to 200 attorneys. But the real breakthrough came when the American Bar Association invited me to speak at their annual technology conference. My presentation, Why Custom Beats Cloud, the Hidden Cost of Standardized Solutions. Standing before 500 legal technology professionals, I shared the Sterling and Associates story, how a working system was replaced by a broken one, how industry standard became code for one size fits none, and how the most expensive solution is often the one that doesn't work. The response was overwhelming. By the end of the conference, I had consulting inquiries from firms in 23 states. Major legal publications requested interviews. 3 law schools asked me to guest lecture on technology decision-making. Most importantly, I'd started something bigger than a consulting business. I'd started a movement away from the assumption that newer, cloudier, and more expensive automatically meant better. Present day. This morning, I received a LinkedIn message that made me smile. Marcus, this is Bradley Chun. I hope you remember me from Sterling and Associates. I'm now working as an independent consultant, helping law firms evaluate technology solutions. I wanted to reach out because I've learned a lot about the importance of understanding existing systems before recommending changes. Would you be interested in collaborating on some projects? I think my business development skills combined with your technical expertise could be valuable for clients. I stared at the message for a long time. Bradley Chun, the man who declared my life's work obsolete, now wanted to partner with me. I typed back, Bradley, I remember you well. I appreciate you reaching out. My rate for collaboration projects is $1,000 per hour, and I only work with consultants who have successfully implemented at least 5 custom legal systems. Let me know when you meet those qualifications. Some bridges burn completely. Others just need to be rebuilt on more honest foundations. The lessons applied. What this story teaches us. 1. Expertise cannot be commoditized. The most dangerous assumption in business is that specialized knowledge can be replaced by generic solutions. Marcus spent 10 years understanding the specific needs of legal professionals, knowledge that no cloud vendor's sales team possessed. When you've built deep expertise in a particular domain, that expertise becomes your competitive moat. 2. Industry standard often means mediocre for everyone. Cloud Legal's proven solution worked for small firms with simple needs. But Sterling and Associates wasn't a simple firm. They had complex workflows, unique requirements, and sophisticated reporting needs. The lesson: beware of solutions that claim to work for everyone. They usually work perfectly for no one. 3. Crisis creates opportunity. Marcus could have been bitter about his termination. Instead, he prepared for the inevitable failure he knew was coming. When crisis hit, he was positioned as the only person who could solve it. The key insight: if you know your replacement will fail, prepare to be the solution when it does. 4. Price your expertise according to its value, not your costs. Marcus went from $135,000 annually to $1,000 per hour because he learned to price his services based on the value he provided, not the time he spent. When you're the only person who can solve a critical problem, your rate should reflect the cost of that problem remaining unsolved. 5. Build systems that create dependency. Marcus didn't just build software. He built institutional knowledge in a code. His system wasn't just functional. It was irreplaceable because it contained 10 years of understanding about how Sterling actually operated. The lesson: don't just deliver what's requested, build what's essential. 6. Network effects compound success. Once word spread about Marcus's capabilities, opportunity accelerated exponentially. In professional services, reputation travels through informal networks faster than any marketing campaign. Excellence in a crisis becomes your most powerful advertisement. 7. Sometimes the best response to being replaced is becoming irreplaceable. Marcus didn't fight the decision to replace his system. He let reality do the fighting for him. When you're confident in your expertise, you can afford to let inferior solutions reveal their limitations naturally. The ultimate lesson: in a world obsessed with disruption and replacement, the professional who truly understands their domain will always find opportunity in others' failures to replicate what actually works. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever seen something great get discarded for something trendy, then hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that quiet competence still matters. And if you believe custom solutions built by people who care will always outlast flashy shortcuts, subscribe for more stories like this. The world doesn't need more buzzwords. It needs builders. Be one.